disrespect, commonly associated with characters who get pushed to the sidelines simply because they are no longer relevant to the story. Think Dragon Ball, where Goku usually meets a dude who is stronger than him, which pushes Goku to losing or eventually adapting and beating them. But something that commonly happens afterward is these characters get put in the bleachers in favor of the next big bad, and they lose their bowling ball shoulders. This role is typically reserved for side goons in a show. The exception to this rule is Yuji Itadori, the main anime protagonist of Jujutsu Kaisen, who is often cooked in his own show. But to understand why, we need to go back to the beginning of the Yuji archives. Itadori starts out the story as this low-key, broken band kid who just lost his grandpa, and as his dying wish, he asks that Itadori help people. Like Jennifer Lawrence. And I guess Megumin's fraud ass too, because why would he actually be competent at taking out a curse he was actively assigned to, Gojo? Because it gets so bad to the point where Itadori is forced to eat lunchly, and he activates his inner penis Parker. But luckily, the split personality disorder he gets from this isn't so bad, and he can simply take his body back whenever he wants. Well, that's at least until they execute his ass so that emo penis Parker can't take over again, but they can't exactly do all that until 20 of the fingers are eaten all at once. Otherwise, bro will just reincarnate into the next freak who decides to eat lunchly. But skipping forward a bit, we get to the first legit boss fight. Hey, you got games on your phone? Yeah, but only cut the rope. 2. And naturally, the situation gets so bad to the point that Itadori offers himself up to bully Maguire. But honestly, I can't even blame bro, cause I'd be shitting bricks and doing the exact same thing. So once this emo side takes over and takes care of business, Bully Maguire offers for Itadori to take back over. But unfortunately, bro must have accidentally sent himself to the Shadow Realm or something, cause he's not really responding. So Bully Maguire pulls up, puts Megumi on fraud watch for the second time in the last 5 minutes, but this time he low-key passes, because the fact that bro is durable enough to survive all of this as a human is actually insane. And before Itadori can take back over again, Bully Maguire rips out his heart so that bro gets cooked like the Thanksgiving turkey. But luckily they ended up resolving their problems off screen, and they decided that they actually wanted to work together so that they could simultaneously achieve both of their objectives. Totally! So Itadori gets revived, and Gojo gives him the secret training in his basement. And he basically gets offshore to Alaska for the next few episodes, and is even shown to be a liability due to how weak he is currently. Until eventually, Itadori faces the greatest challenge yet: bagging Junpei's mom.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
I mean, hey, can you blame him? If it works out, bro can clear up his entire student debt and basically live a stress-free life until he gets executed. But unfortunately, this quest gets put on an indefinite hold when this freaking cockblocker Maito turns her into SpaghettiOs! Piece of shit! So Junpei, assuming the bullies killed his mom since they've been dicks to him throughout the entire arc without the schools actually doing shit and accurately representing schools around the globe, loses his shit. But luckily, Itadori pulls up to stop him before he can cause any permanent harm. But their fight is once again put on indefinite hold when the certified cockblocker of the century pulls up yet again and reveals that he actually wanted Junpei to kill everyone in the school. Not because he needed to, but just because he's a silly little guy who's bored and just wanted to start up a little drama. But now that Junpei knows this, it is time to transform him into Attack on Titan textures and make the entire intro OST pointless! So this enrages Itadori, mainly because he couldn't back Junpei's mom, and he shows his cockblocker the power of his right and left jab. But unfortunately, the cockblocker is ever shifting, and Itadori is outmatched. But this is also where the cockblocker makes the unfortunate mistake of trying to touch Bully Maguire, who at this point is only one step away from turning him into Swiss cheese after he killed Junpei's mom and ruined their plans of a stress-free life. But you know what? He gives Cockblocker a one-time pass because they both hate Itadori banned kid's voice from the English dub.
I know I can land my attack. This is my last.
There's also this small moment where we get some growth from Itadori, showing how he is willing to kill humans who are turned into curses, which is something he felt conflicted about doing before. But ultimately, the Cockblocker ends up getting away and goes to the sewers with all the other creatine fish. Next up, we got the tournament, baby! Where Itadori shows why everyone from the other school is completely washed. Because despite jumping bro all at once, they don't even manage to put as much as a scratch on him. The only person who can actually take on Itadori at this point is his besto friendo, buff, samurai Giga Chad without the sword, Toto. But honestly, their autistic charisma is on such a high level that this feels less like a deathmatch and more like me and brocore. And honestly, Itadori adapts quite quickly, and if they just kept going at this rate, there is no telling how high he could go. But eventually, their gooning session is interrupted by the Lorax's cousin, Bree the Tree. And this is where Itadori's teachings from Toto are truly put to the test. And not gonna lie, Itadori is absolutely cooking in this fight, as well as showing off his synergy with Toto and their ability to do combinations. But unfortunately, their fight ends up getting interrupted by the actual main character of the show, Gojo. Then for the rest of season 1, the OG gang goes on a mission where Itadori shows off his synergy with Nabara and takes out the Cursed Brothers. Because it may not be right or wrong, but damn, are the Filmora transition effects cool. Overall, if I had to describe the common trend I noticed with this part, it was the fact that most of the main events that happen in this show to drive the plot forward are happening in the background, either through the villains, through Gojo, through the school, or some other character that is simply outside of Itadori. However, we get some other moments where he takes on the main bads, such as his fight with the Cockblocker, his fight with Bree the Tree, and his fight with the Cursed Brothers, which was the best by far, especially given the fact that he actually managed to be the one to finish them off. But outside of these events, Itadori was just kinda doing his own things off at the sidelines for most of the season. But hopefully that can be improved in the next part, as he has gotten so much stronger. So, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This part is weird, because we went from Itadori ending season 1 with a bang, showing off his overall superior strength over most jiu-jitsu sorcerers around him, to working with the Alabamic sister and her brother, who basically call him mid, pull a Baki, and get trained by a grasshopper because he's sick and tired of their shit, which honestly is quite understandable given that they clearly don't respect him and they got zero chemistry. Then after Gojo is sealed away in the mason jar, Itadori finds Megumin, and they begin fighting the Mario border crosser, who basically gets defeated because Megumin is weak, which actually helps them in a fight for once. So then finally, Itadori is able to fight his first main bad, Choso, the third period blood brother. And I will not lie, though Itadori puts up a really damn good fight, and this is one of my favorite fights in the entire series, he unfortunately gets cooked, and the period blood brother starts tweaking out because he gets a schizo episode for some reason, thinking that Itadori is his brother. So he leaves Itadori alone for the time being. Unfortunately, Itadori is not done getting violated just yet, because the Taylor shit fans start feeding him Snickers because Bully Maguire isn't himself when he's hungry. But they get interrupted by Gojo. Goho. Fuck Fujo! Jujo? Joe? Go, who blows them up, but literally begins to do the exact same thing anyway. So Bully Maguire, as thanks to them for unleashing him because the Taylor Swift fans are still somehow alive, allow them to make the first request. Please, let us see the new Taylor Swift songs early.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Okay, I would like to request an ass beating Well, no, I was... That wasn't a request.
Fucking compete! I just can't.
Meanwhile, Megami is trying not to die at the Thanksgiving family reunion, and somehow by the grace of God, he managed to survive. Unfortunately, on his way back home, he gets stabbed in the back by the English and art major. But since he's been doing nothing but math for the past few years, he summons Maharaga for help with his homework. But he doesn't know anything either, so he's just gonna blow up the institution instead. But before he can do that, Bully Maguire steps in, because if it wasn't obvious already, Jogo is quite literally cooked like a shish kebab. And if destroying half the city with Jogo wasn't enough, Bully Maguire decides to destroy the rest of the city with Maharaga, in genuinely one of the most crack-filled and destructive fights I have ever seen in anime. And you're telling me that this was animated on a rush? Mappa animators, I am genuinely so freaking sorry. Because it's not just the fact that it's super well animated or the fact that the fight goes on for like the entire freaking episode, but it's just the fact that there's so much crap happening. There's buildings being destroyed, there's cars being thrown in the air, and there's just so much stuff happening in this fight that never happened in the manga that I just have to wonder, what were they feeding you guys? And once this absolute crack fest is over, Itadori finally starts to wake up from the Snickers bar food coma. And like the absolute demon he is, Bully Maguire shows Itadori the bridge incident.
What a fucking...
And as Itadori is grieving, he catches up to the cockblocker, who this time managed to cockblock Itadori from saving his old teacher, Mr. Overtime. Itadori has officially had enough and runs the ones with cockblocker once again, and this time, Itadori is actually matching up quite well with him, landing a few hits, a few devious combos, evading his attacks like the IRS. Overall, just a great performance from Itadori. But eventually, Nabara joins the fight against the cockblocker's foreskin duo, and because of her technique, she manages to create an opening for Itadori to mollywop the absolute shit out of the main cockblocker himself and make him see the Grim Reaper for the first time. But unfortunately, the foreskin duo pulls a good old switcheroo, and before Nabara can understand what is going on, she gets touched. Oh no, do not show the flashback. Do not show the... Son of a bitch! Nabara joining in this fight had actually given Itadori hope for the fact that he was not fighting alone. But now that she was gone, that hope feels so far out of reach. And being filled with sorrow, Itadori loses his fighting spirit. That is until my buff samurai without the sword, Giga-Jetted King Toto, pulls up, ready to run the fade of the decade once again with Itadori. Because though many around them have fallen, it is ultimately up to them to carry on their legacy. And picking back up on the synergy they had before, but evolving it to an even greater point, they managed to kick Cockblocker's ass and start pulling out all sorts of moves, such as Yusei Run Toto featuring Tonica Black Flash Kick, Boogie Woogie Shenanigans and Boogie Woogie with Toto clapping cheeks in the wind, and a final Boogie Woogie switch to give Itadori one of the most decisive blows on Cockblocker imaginable. But unfortunately, this puts Toto out of commission, and now it is up to Itadori to finish the fight. And after a bit of trial and error, he manages to do just that. He runs the fade with Cockblocker one last time and summons the Black Flash at will to finally defeat the Cockblocker. Itadori finally acknowledges the development within himself that Cockblocker had been pointing out throughout this fight. He acknowledges the fact that they are indeed the same, and that Itadori, no matter what the era, will give in to his primal desire of tearing off the Cockblocker's foreskin. But before he can enact his revenge fully, Cockblocker gets sealed into a ball by Geto. Goku Resurrection F kill stealing bitch! Overall, the main thing I can say about the second part of the Itadori archives is the fact that he got cucked for the majority of it. Despite having achieved so much in Season 1 and finally seeming to be at that point where he could be involved in many more main events, he actually managed to get cucked even harder in this part than the previous one. Instead, pretty much the entire arc is centered around the fact that Gojo got sealed away in the mason jar, and now everyone has to suffer the consequences of the real main character having got defeated. And sure, something like this happening is understandable to focus on for a little while as they adapt to the current situation, but Itadori getting knocked out by the period blood brother for multiple episodes only proves my point further as to how Bro, despite being the main character, is actively getting pushed to the sidelines. When he does eventually return though, oh man, is it absolutely fantastic, because the hands that he is able to run are nothing short of insane. I don't feel that Itadori is talked about enough in JJK because of his smaller role in it in comparison to some other characters, which, sure, it may be true that Itadori does play a much smaller role, but come on! Every single time Bro is involved in a fight, it is basically guaranteed to be one of the top fights in JJK every single time. And look, as much as I love Gojo, his fights are much more focused on just simply overpowering the opponent with his massive strength. Well, Itadori feels a lot more strategic and purposeful, yet time and time again, he is put to the sidelines. Despite being the main anime protagonist, despite having unique abilities, despite having strengths that make his fights the most enjoyable, and despite him managing to have the most compatible synergy with the most amount of characters, Itadori is really far up there as one of the most disrespected characters in all of Jujutsu Kaisen. But who knows, maybe the culling games will change that, and in a few months, this video will age like vitamin D milk. I certainly hope that will be the case, but only time will tell. Thanks for watching. Also, I'm an anime only watcher, so for all you manga viewers, do not spoil it, or I will